Welcome to the channel, my name's Rob, and in today's video we're going to discover how Poland managed to get rid of communism from their country. If you enjoyed this video, then do me a favour, go down there, hit the like button, subscribe and add some comments.
The Solidarity strike was born out of a unique alliance in a communist country between workers, intellectuals and a Catholic church that wasn't afraid to speak out. Polish intellectuals never believed in communism. Their cooperation with the workers proved a powerful mix when the country hit its latest crisis in the summer of 1980. What started as a protest against increased food prices developed into an attempt to rid Poland of a communist elite that had lost control and whose words couldn't be trusted.
Wprowadzajcie nową technikę, unowocześniajcie produkcję, ulepszajcie nową technikę, wymagajcie wysiłki.
Znaczy to, ja prawdę powiedziawszy, jak ktoś...
If you didn't grow up under communism, you wouldn't understand the essence of it and why we had to end it. I was lucky to grow up in a family that knew what communism was about. We knew there was this free world and we didn't have it. We had this taken away from us. I was lucky to read this book, 1984, by George Orwell, and I was able to compare. I could see that one day this would have to end. My father didn't believe he would see it in his life, and we young people thought not even in our lifetime.
I think communism is a funny one because I've got no necessarily any right to have an opinion on what it's like because I don't know what it's like, and a lot of us don't know what it's like. But communism, I think the meaning roughly is the fact that you own nothing. Nothing is owned, nothing is private, everything is owned by the government and everything is technically shared equally. But we all know actually the people at the top get everything. And the problem is you can't work harder or be smarter to better your own life, because your life surely will always be at a certain level that the government tells you can have it as. Surely that's the way it is. Now, at the moment, Poland is a socialist society. We in the UK, I would happily have us more socialist. Now, no country is 100% capitalist, but I would see ourselves as being... I would like us to go slightly further to the left on socialism. But the problem is, I can say over here, for example, in the UK, when we've had recent elections and the whole Brexit debate, a lot of the working class or the far right would try and say socialism is communism, and that's just not true. It really isn't true. With socialism, if you work hard, you deserve to get what you earn. And yeah, it's a funny one because, like I said, a lot of people try and throw socialism under the bus and word it as communism or Marxism.
All of the communist governments in Poland tried to buy their way out of crisis after crisis. Each time things would get better for a while and then they just got worse again. People started to have less and less faith in the communists, and at some point the people would reject them. This critical mass of opposition was bound to grow. Something had to happen in this kind of situation.
Po II wojnie światowej dostaliśmy się w orbitę sowiecką.
After the Second World War, we were handed over to communist Russia. It was never part of the Polish tradition to be a communist country, and we were always fighting it. Even Stalin said that communism suited Poland as well as a saddle fits a pig. It could never work. In the 1940s and 50s, we couldn't beat them with guns. In the 60s and 70s, we protested on the streets and our people were shot. So that's why we decided to try different tactics in the 80s. And they worked.
Those tactics involved a sit-in at the Lenin shipyard in August when workers and intellectuals put together a set of 21 demands. These included the lowering of food prices, but also the right to organise their own free trade union. The strike wasn't about bringing down a communist government. The workers just wanted cheaper food. The Solidarity soon found itself the unofficial opposition in Poland.
That's so interesting. So the solidarity movement was never there to take down communism, but it did. It was there to lower food prices. That's so fascinating, because something small, I suppose, has become something bigger and has become sort of the mouthpiece for the rest of the country, and it worked. And no matter what people said about old Lech, yes, people are saying, oh, yes, but he was still a communist, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't care, actually, because the outcome was good, mostly, right? The outcome was good. So let's forget about him being a traitor or, and whatever, a spy and all that sort of stuff. The outcome was good. I think when you want change, it can be done in many forms, right? So war is one thing, right? They did things like sit-ins. Now we've got the whole social media and the internet, so change can easily spread like on social media with one post, and then everyone follows along, and it creates a movement. And it's interesting that they've had to find a different way, because previous ways, so maybe they've been trying to get out of communism for a long time, and this was finally the way that worked.
Support for the strike grew, and the country faced economic collapse. With more and more factories closing, the government agreed to negotiate, a move unheard of in any communist country.
We had an idea that something big was happening at the time of the strike. Everybody was trying to find out what was going on inside the shipyard. We heard and read what was coming out, and we realised that this was not about our stomachs anymore. This was about bigger issues.
It was clear what our agenda was, and it had to do with more than just food. 90% of people were in trade unions, and the issue that they were supporting was, from bread we will get freedom. If they stated from the outset that they wanted to change the system, it never would have worked. They would have been killed.
The communist government signed up to Solidarity's demands by the end of August. In just 18 days, Solidarity had rocked Poland and the Eastern Bloc to its foundations. It had won the right to recruit its own members and to strike. Membership mushroomed from 3 to 9 million. The trade union had become a major force in Polish politics, with Lech Wałęsa its charismatic leader.
The USSR wasn't going to accept this threat to communist control. It sent troops to the borders of Poland, a clear threat that if its rulers didn't suppress Solidarity, Moscow would. So, as the rest of the world looked on, Polish forces set about silencing the national opposition.
General Jaruzelski, the newly imposed leader of Poland, moved against Solidarity. The trade union was outlawed. Thousands of members were jailed. Lech Wałęsa was placed under house arrest. But the introduction of martial law did nothing to solve Poland's economic crisis.
I suppose that's the thing. When there's unrest, how can you suppress that? Yes, I think the way that Russia and then the Polish government at the time would have pushed back at the trade unions and things, and solidarity would have. It's like you tell children smoking is bad, right? Well, then they go and bloody smoke. Or you tell a child, don't touch that hot oven, and what do? They touch a hot oven. The more you push back, the more they will push back, and that's what happens here. I think if the communist government and Russia, they are would have made it probably more of an issue than what it initially set out to be. They set out just to lower food prices, but possibly the way the Russians and that the Polish government at the time dealt with it actually inflated the issues a lot more and became what it did, and therefore they caused their own downfall.
The communists believed that they could break down the people, the trade unions and me, and manipulate and divide them into enemies. But that wouldn't work. As far as I was concerned, they could kill me, but they wouldn't win.
The attempt to crush Solidarity was a traditional Soviet response to dissent. But when Gorbachev came to power, he changed the landscape of relations between the USSR and the Eastern Bloc. A man committed to glasnost and perestroika at home couldn't object to the people of Eastern Europe finding their own way in the world. Gorbachev said he'd no longer interfere in Eastern Europe. He advised Jaruzelski to sit down with Solidarity and enlist its support. With the promise of Soviet backing removed, the Polish government had to talk to Solidarity and finally agreed to free elections. The Polish people voted overwhelmingly for Solidarity candidates. In panic, Jaruzelski phoned Gorbachev, who urged him to give way to the people. He did, and in August 1989, the new parliament elected a Solidarity member as its first prime minister. This was the first non-communist government in the Soviet bloc since 1948.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And that's something else I've got to try and learn about old Gorbachev. Obviously, he was, a part of the USSR. He was one of the Soviets. But he was a big part of Poland getting rid of communism, and it confuses me a little bit because why would he have done that? Like, was that really in his best interests? Maybe not. I don't know. So maybe I've got to learn a little bit more about old Gorbachev. It's so interesting actually, because this story you see all the time in different forms, in different severities. The whole thing, it's the same with our trade unions over here at the moment. With the train strikes and the nurse strikes. You strike, you try and be peaceful, but you strike to get what you want. And they can be dangerous. And they can be unfair as well sometimes, because I'll give you the situation over here. The train drivers, they're striking. And bear in mind, they're not on bad money, right? They're not on bad money. But other people don't have the option to strike. So if theirs go up, others don't necessarily go up. But then prices have to go up. And I'm no economic. Yeah. I'm not an economic. I can't even get that word out. You know what I mean? So I don't know the ins and outs, but it's a tricky one, but it's always happening, right? If you stop working, it makes people listen because people need services. Fair play. So now Poland is a socialist society with the Law and Order Party, which is the worst name for a party. An awful name for a party because it just sounds scary. It doesn't. It sounds like we rule by fear, but that's another video. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know, once again, are you glad it's a socialist society, or do you think actually communism was better? Please let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I will catch you next time.